19 tips that could save your life in Minecraft. Number 1. Creepers aren't the easiest mobs to fight, especially early game, meaning that sometimes your brawl is going to end in an explosion, which isn't ideal, but if that's the case, let's minimize the damage. See, the way that Minecraft calculates explosion damage works in the proximity to the player's feet, meaning if we create some kind of barrier between our toes and our foes, that damage is significantly less. So next time that you're fighting a creeper and it goes south, just place a block between the two of you. No joke, that's all it takes for us to reduce this from a one-hit knockout to as low as half a heart of damage. And hey, it'll even work with TNT and bed explosions as well, making this a solid plan B if you can't defuse that situation. Number 2. When you're fighting monsters at night, it can be easy to be overwhelmed. So to stay safe as you get swarmed, let's try a way to compartmentalize those foes. And folks, the best candidate for that is 5 planks like so. See, with a boat, or a minecart for that matter, any non-boss mob nearby will lock into the vehicle, meaning that just by placing a boat, we can stop our enemies right in their tracks. Sure, it might be awkward to place if their hitboxes are too close by, but if you manage to run away and find a place for it, that could be all you need to deal with that baby zombie. And best part, the boat's reusable, letting us get the kill and still climb it back. Number 3. It's a tale as old as the 1.3 update. When you enter a desert temple, you've got to disable that stone pressure plate, and failure to do so could easily be the end of your run. But even knowing that plan, mistakes can happen. So whether it was you, a friend, or maybe the rabbit that triggered the plate, the fact still stands that we need to fix this, and fast. And to do that, there's actually a simple solution. As you'll notice, by breaking the pressure pad and the block that it's on, we can fill that space with a water bucket to flood the explosion chamber. And from there, the TNT detonates, but it doesn't delete the blocks or cause us any harm up here, letting us still claim those treasure chests all the same. Number 4. When you're playing survival mode, few things are scarier than the void, and too many of us can relate to the pain of getting your stuff deleted in the abyss. So before you and your friends go off to try and get an elytra, this might be the best way to stay safe on the server. Now, we've talked in the past about ender pearl stasis chambers, but I've seen very few of these put to use in the actual end. Though if we were to set up one of these, then we could split the jobs like so. One person goes on to build the bridge and set the path, while the other one mans the trapdoor back here. Then, if one falls, the other one flips the hatch, and they're teleported right back to solid ground, giving us quite the safety net. Number 5. Hardcore mode is the pinnacle of challenge, and while that can be quite rewarding, it can also turn south just as quick. So if we're gonna have a tremendous 5-year run like Philza, we'll need every trick in the book. And this fits that bill. See, in single player, if you disconnect and then reconnect into the world like so, we can use the invincibility frames that you're given to survive nearly everything. Whether that's to escape a lava lake, or even just reset fall damage, the possibility is there. And sure, this could be classified as cheating, so use it at your own discretion. But considering you can die in this game from just a glitch, it might be fair to level the playing field and use a glitch to survive. Number 6. Getting chased is a rough situation, and whether it's a mob or a friend, the fact stands that you've got to find a way to bail, and fast. And if you're in that pinch, a flint and steel is a viable option. Now, that might sound ridiculous, but the truth is that we can damage boost ourselves out of harm's way. As it is, if you light yourself on fire and then jump on time with the knockback, it's possible to fling ourselves over certain jumps, which in some cases might be all we need for an escape. Sure, it's high risk, but if it widens the gap with your pursuer, that might be all you need. So without other options, that flint and tinder in your inventory might just be the way. Number 7. Exploring is a key part of the Minecraft experience, but the dark side of that is how easy it is to get lost. And as we all know, the longer that you go without a steady place to sleep and stash your stuff, the more likely you are to lose that progress. So to prevent that roll of the dice, what if we opted for an option like this? By simply marking our coordinates in a book and quill, or my personal favorite of renaming different pieces of armor and tools, then we can have a constant reminder for how to return. And sure, a notepad would do the same, it's really just preference. But if it helps you out to have that info stashed in the game, then it might be able to get you back before nightfall. Number 8. When it comes to staying alive, we all know that hunger can be just as important as your life bar. And while I doubt that many of us are starving to death, it's the way that saturation plays into regeneration that we need to focus on. So until you got the farms necessary for shulker boxes full of golden carrots, let's try a cheaper option. Because, as you can see from this table, our next candidate will be the suspicious stew. But folks, not just any stew, but specifically the one that's made with dandelions. With this, we not only get multiple bars filled on the meter, but we also have better saturation than any cooked food in the game. So if you're looking to regen in the nether, then maybe pack some yellow flowers for your next mushroom stew. Number 9. Let's face it, no one wants to wait at their desk for hours, which is why going AFK is such a beautiful concept. But what seems like a dream for time management could just as easily be a nightmare. And I've seen far too many times where an AFK trip ends in an unattended death and a loss of items. So to fix that, let's give ourselves somewhere safe to wait. And for that, I think these safety boxes are a brilliant addition. By throwing down a composter with a trapdoor lid, we can squeeze ourselves into place and then shut the box for safety. That way, no monsters that spawn nearby can come over and ruin the operation. And then, when finished, we can hop out and reap the rewards just as planned. Number 10. Starting a raid can be a fun challenge to take on. That is, if you're prepared. But if you forgot about your bad omen effect when you walked into town, now that's a lot more dangerous to both you and your villagers. So So to steer clear of that, we can set up a system like this one to prevent raids from happening. By trapping a pillager and then giving them a name tag, we can safely keep this prisoner next to our villager pals. Then if we were to return with a bad omen effect, that prisoner will count as the first and only raider of the first wave. Give that a few Minecraft days, and eventually the raid will end, saving you the trouble of fighting and keeping the village safe for another day. Number 11. It's an old fact of life. Walls make for a great defense. But when you're in a pinch, it's not always easy to build your own barriers, or get through them. So what if instead we could walk through an existing one? Well, it turns out that's not as crazy as it sounds, because as you'll notice, these ender pearls are not just good for teleporting away, but also inside. And if you aim them like such, we can manage to glitch through solid walls to escape, which I'll admit is risky. After all, the ender pearl is going to deal some damage when you land. But if you have the health and time to spare, this could get you out of both sight and harm's way with a simple setup. And if your foe can't teleport, that should be the end of the chase. Number 12. Beds are essential for staying safe, especially before you get armor and resources. But while they work great most of the time, this blanket solution does have its own issues. And I think we're all familiar with the phrase, "You may not rest now, there are monsters nearby." But to fix that, there's actually a simple workaround. See, if we take our bed and then hop into a nearby pool, we can place it on the lake bed and sleep as regular. And since the land monsters aren't exactly Olympic swimmers, we should be able to get enough distance between us to pass the night. And I wouldn't exactly make it a permanent bed, but it gets the job done. And maybe the next time you're in danger, you'll try wetting the bed instead. Number 13. Every now and then, you're gonna find yourself in a bad situation, and a lava lake is definitely on that list. And while potions would be an obvious solution, they're not exactly easy to pack in bulk. So let's try something we can actually stack up on. And for that, I think our best candidate is the coarse fruit. Sure, it's a late game item, but it's also indispensable in this situation. Say you take a plunge into a nether or ravine. Well, just chew on one of these and you'll be teleported right to solid ground. In fact, it could be even used to save yourself from a fall if you use it quite right. And hey, having an extra food source on hand is not going to be a bad thing either, so the results are clear to see. Number 14. Ocean monuments are a tricky obstacle, but luckily axolotls help to ease that pain and give us an assist against the guardians. Though if they die, then we're back to square one, which leads to this solution. In Bedrock, it's apparently possible to make an invulnerable mob just by using a mix of potions and timing. After splashing them with a potion of decay, wait 12 to 15 seconds until the health runs out, and then spam down health potions. If it worked, you get something like this, where the death animation glitches out, but they're still in a state of purgatory, which we then grab them with a bucket and place down our newly found immortal companion. And after that, we can use our new invincible bodyguards to keep us safe going forward. Number 15. Fall damage is a rude awakening, and without the slow falling potion, it could take us down in many instances, which is why we try to avoid big drops when we can. And unfortunately, the new caves in the 1.18 update seem to be filled with those. So if we can't place a ladder along the open space, what if we tried ropes instead, otherwise known as weeping vines? After grabbing these out of a crimson forest, all we need to do is attach them to a nearby ceiling and spam bone meal to reach the bottom. Then hey, this also could work plenty well in the nether, where a water bucket is really out of the question. And until we get a proper rope to climb on, this will stay our best alternative. Number 16. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that drowning isn't pleasant. A bold statement, I know. So if neither you nor I like drowning, then why don't we test our options to stay safe in the deep blue? And while potions would seem the obvious favorite, I'd actually say that a bucket is all that we need. While sure, a potion lasts longer, it also takes up valuable inventory space and resources. A bucket, on the other hand, is not only cheap, but also easy to use. See here, as we get close to drowning, all we need to do is hold down the right click, and that empty bucket will do all of the rest. And since most of us carry a water bucket for falls anyway, this seems like the most efficient solution. Number 17. Traveling with your friends is normally a good idea, but sometimes that extra set of hands can just as easily be a burden. For instance, say you're raiding the different structures in the nether, but then your clumsy pal takes a dive into a patch of lava or a nest of piglin. In that case, it might pay off to carry a fishing rod to the other dimension. Using one of these, you can not only pull your friend out of danger, but also just lift them up to cut back on pillaring. Now sure, the timing is important here, and it might not always be easy to pull off, but having a lifeline on hand is always better than leaving them doomed. So to that point, it's worth keeping in the hotbar. Number 18. Water bucket saves are a valuable skill to have, but in the nether, there's only one way that works out. So to save your legs in the second dimension, let's opt for a second choice. While it could come in the form of powdered snow buckets or hay bales, I think boats are actually the prime selection. With one of these, we can fall seamlessly to the ground from any height and still walk away safe. And best yet is that it's super simple to pull off. No need to worry about timing or anything like that. And hey, pack a couple of these in your hotbar and you can use them to get across lava as well, which is a bit more risky, but also substantially cooler. Number 19. Everyone remembers the fears of surviving their first night in Minecraft. And while I bet that we're all better equipped by now, the fact still remains that nightfall could always be a toss-up. So if you're out exploring and you want to get back to your village before the zombies come, you may not want to risk the hassle. And I don't blame you. So let's get a solution that solves just that. And for this, our whole plan hinges around using a daylight sensor. When set up like so, we can partner the sensor with a trap door to turn our Ender Pearl stasis chamber into a